Hello, SolarLoon here, and this is a little tutorial talking about integrating an IDE into your BDX project. BDX is a game engine that's under development by Goran, and has been going on being in development for a few months. As far as I know, it's going pretty well. It's pretty much pre-alpha, like it lacks a lot of features, even things that LibGDX supports, which it's kind of based off of LibGDX, so it doesn't have like lighting and shadows and shaders and stuff like that built in. But since it is built off of LibGDX, you should be able to, implement that yourself if you wanted to. But it's going to come in the future, so no worries on that. But yeah, I'm just going to basically show how to integrate an IDE into your BDX project. So I'm not going to go into the basics, because that stuff is actually available on the Github Wiki. A guy by the name of SolarLoon wrote some of the tutorials available there, so you can read up there. Okay, so you'll have your project, you'll have everything done, you'll have I'm trying to think of the word. You have a project structure like this. Core is where you're going to put your source files. Blender is where your blend file goes, your game blend file. Let's see, Android assets is BDX. That's where your assets go. So it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so what we want to do is basically integrate an IDE into this so that we can more easily write source code. So this is basically the process that I've found is the best way to do it. I haven't really gone too far into it. This is just when I was messing around with my own BDX project, trying to see the best way to make stuff. This is my kind of observations. So the IDE we're going to be integrating is IntelliJ IDEA. I'm not sure about other IDEs. This one seems to work pretty well. It has good Python support if you want to stay with Python for BGE games. It has good Python support through the Python plugin. So it's a nice IDE. Okay, so you're going to create a new project. And one more thing that you might want to make note of is that, in my experience, it seems like IntelliJ might like hijack or stop BDX from properly running. You'll have to kind of keep an eye out on your task manager to make sure anything any additional Java processes aren't running and kind of stopping BDX from performing the necessary functions to actually get the game up and running. But anyway, you're going to create a new project, select next and next. And as for the project location, you're going to probably go with core. There's source files in desktop, HTML, I think Android and iOS, but core is where your source code is going to go for the most part when it comes to making new game mechanics, adding source for game characters and things like that. I guess like I said, you could edit those additional ones if you want to like change the desktop launcher or things like that, but I'm not so sure on that since it works by default. So you're going to create your IDE project in core, and you can name it whatever it is. You can name it, for example, test project, and so it'll go ahead and create that. And so when I created the test project, the BDX test project, I filled out the different fields in the add-on, and one of them was the Java class path, which will come into play when you go ahead and create your source code. So you'll see that when I go ahead and look at the example or the base BDX application file, source file that comes with the project. Okay, so you'll see this little thing prompt that says unlinked Gradle project. Do you want to import it? And for the most part, I don't think you need it, because basically BDX handles like Gradle, which imports the dependencies and does everything you need it to do. You just want to use the IDE to write source code, basically, because we're going to be using this to play and to export and run our game project. We're going to be using Blender to export and run our game project. And we can use Gradle directly to distribute our files and things like that. So this is bdxapp.java, and it's kind of like the initial point where the application will start the game. The game will start. You don't really mess with anything in here, honestly, But you'll see that there's a lot of issues here. It doesn't impact the way the game runs, but for the IDE, it's telling us that there's problems, which is bad because if we want to write our own code, it's going to also have problems. So we want to resolve these problems. And they kind of stem from not being able to import the LibGDX API, the com.badlogic.gdx API, and not being able to import resolve the BDX API. So we want to fix those things. So if you go over here to libs, you'll see these three library folders. Oops. If you right click them and select add as library and select OK, the defaults are OK, that'll basically allow the IDE to tell that you're using that for the project. And so if you just do that for the others as well, and leaving them as default seems to be fine, you'll be able to basically use these libraries and import them correctly. So now if we type in, for example, import com dot, it'll finish off and show us the different things we can import, one of them being nil under, and now we can see the packages in the BDX package and the classes in the BDX class package. So we can see basically what BDX contains, which is really nice because when you go ahead and start writing your source code, you're going to want to know what each thing can do and what's in each package. And you can also explore it directly by opening the package and selecting the source like so. And you can also hold Control to kind of jump to the source class or source class that you're selecting. So that's useful as well. So now we also want to resolve these bad logic symbols. Now that is a little more difficult because it's not actually here in our libs folder. It's a dependency that was downloaded by Gradle. So what we're going to do is point our project to that location as well and tell it, we're going to use that. So go to the modules, file, project structure, and then modules section. Select add content root, and it'll automatically kind of open it up like this. You want to go to your users directory and then go to .gradle. For different OSs, it'd be a different location, but the users directory seems to be the if you're on Mac, you probably know where the users directory is, or you can find it. Same thing for Linux. So you go to Gradle, then caches, then modules 2, and then files 2.1. And so this is basically all the stuff that was downloaded as a dependency. So you're going to select this folder, users, SolarLoon for me, user SolarLoon, but your users directory, then .gradle, caches, modules 2, files 2.1. Select OK. And so it'll search for all the stuff in there. And we're going to leave it like this. Leave it OK like that. Now we're going to go and select this folder, which was added for our project. And you can go over here to com.badlogicgames.gdx and expand the GDX folder in the 1.3.1 folder. And you'll see these kind of random sequences of numbers. One of them contains the GDX jar file, and we can go ahead and right click that and add it as a library. And now that resolves correctly. Everything resolves correctly. There's no more errors that our IDE is telling us about. Excuse me. And now everything is nice and copacetic. So that's basically the process. Now you should be able to basically find anything that you need to use. If something doesn't resolve correctly, you can find it and resolve it there, or resolve it here. For the most part, you're probably going to be using the BDX API and a few of the built-in ones like JavaX, VecMath, and stuff like that. So you can say, for example, vector3f, and yeah, there we go. So it goes ahead and imports that vec equals new vector3f, and then or equals cam dot position or whatever we want to mess around with and try stuff with. So what you're going to do generally is make a new class file that will basically have the same name as an object in your game scene. So it will be player.java, and it would probably extend game object. So I'll give you an example here, just so you can kind of get a foot in the door or get an idea of how this would work. So we say player and we say it extends the game object class, and it'll automatically tell, okay, we're talking about the BDX game object class. And we can type in, for example, whatever variable, and we can see the different variables. Whatever name, and we can see the different names that are defined in our game object class. So we can say, oh, we want to overwrite the init function. And so there we go. We can basically perform the parent's init function by super.init if there's anything in there, which there isn't. And same thing for the main. Well, this is an old version of GDX. That's not in here anymore. It's actually elsewhere. So it's actually like this now. Well, I can't edit it. I can't edit it because it's in a jar file. But anyway, yeah. So you would, for example, if you want to overwrite main, then you can do that and say, let's make a public float move speed, and we can define it here if we wanted to, equal 1.0f or 1. Well, 0.1f actually, and then we can override the main function, and we can say, we're going to move it on that. We're going to move it in that direction, move it in a direction by that move speed. So we can make a new vector, vector 3f, vec equals position. So we're getting the position of the object. vec.x plus equal move speed. And then position, we're setting the position back using the same variable. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. It adds these override tags. I have been able to get it to work without using that, but since it does it by default, I'm not going to change that. That's probably a good idea. But generally, that is not really necessary to get the game to work. Okay, and so if we go ahead and, if we go ahead and just wait for it to compile, it's probably going to take a little longer because I'm recording and stuff. We should see the player slide over to the left, to the right, kind of slowly. Just gotta wait for it to go ahead and compile. Do 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 do. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there he goes. And so he extends and disappears off into the depths of space to the right and below. Yeah, so that's the basic concept. Yeah, so that's it. Hopefully you'll have fun working with BDX, having a nice little API where you can, or IDE, where you can easily write code and see what stuff uses and see what things are and what variables or what functions expect you to use and have fun with being able to more easily get at the game engine. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I've been SolarLoon. Hopefully you found this useful and you can go ahead and help Goran develop and work on this. It's really got a lot of potential, and hopefully it'll be really nice and useful and have a lot of features in the future. Like I said, it's not finished, but if you want to toy around with it, please feel free to. I'll put a link in the description to the repository where you can find all the information. Alright, thanks for watching. See ya.